I actually got into the insulation business back when I was 16 years old. I answered an ad in the paper. And they wanted an insulator and a canvasser. Well, my granddad was a paper hanger, and I knew you had to put up the canvas, you know, before you put the paper up back then. And I could do that. And and then the insulator. I know my dad had been working on the house, building the house, and he had insulated all the pipes, you know, before he put them together and everything. But yeah, that wasn't too hard. I could probably do that. So I answered that. And canvasser, for most people don't realize, it's person that goes out and knocks doors and gets leads for other people to follow up and sell the business. But the business was insulation, and I got real excited about it because it was something that people needed. It's something they were paying for, whether they had it or not. And I just thought the world ought to have it, you know, and got real excited about it. And we really set all kinds of records as far as insulation sales for the first several years. This was in the late 50s, about 59, 60. And a lot of houses back then were built without insulation, believe it or not. They didn't have insulation in the attic. And so it was just a matter of finding those houses that weren't insulated and demonstrating to them what the insulation did. And surprisingly, it was hard to convince a lot of people that insulation would really save money. And but it got us started in the business, and we graduated from insulation. We got into the siding business. Of course, the reason for buying is all the same. It's you know, save maintenance, save on energy costs, and so it's always been that same theme all my business life, is to do something that's going to save people money, and you know that they're paying for it anyway. Yeah, I actually canvassed for several years, actually knocking doors and meeting people and setting up leads and that type of thing. It was a really good, you know, foundation, you know, because. Doing it that way, you can always generate your own business without really any expense. And but I gradually, naturally graduated into actually handling my own business and selling my own product and seeing to it that it's installed and you know, that kind of stuff. I first went into business. I was, I think, 20 years old, and I had some ideas. The only reason I went into business for myself is tried to progress in the company that I was in, and it was kind of, you know, I'd pretty much reached I've gone as far as I could go with that particular company. And I had a lot of ideas that I thought would be beneficial to that business that just I couldn't really get done. In the insulation business, you know, all the guys were paid by the hour. They didn't make very much money. And I saw that if they were on piecework rather than being on just a low hourly wage, they would end up doing more work and actually making more money, and our costs would go down. And when I did that, production went right through the ceiling. I mean, we were insulating. We were doing 2 or 3 times as many houses for every rig. And of course, I'd got the equipment and everything. It was in business for myself. And I noticed that the company I used to work for copied the same system. From day one, I guess, when I was in the business, most companies would just insulate the exterior walls by taking the board off the top and just blowing it from the top. Well, there was a problem with that because you didn't get as much insulation in the wall, and you didn't get the density you needed. So we came up with a double blowing method where we blew it from the bottom as well as the top and increased the density of the insulation and eliminated a lot of the settling that you would have over the years. We could demonstrate very clearly that we're doing a much better job than what they could get from anyplace else, and nobody had even thought about it, or it was just too much trouble. When I first got into siding, pretty much all they did was put siding on the exterior walls. There was no trim work at all. So that meant even though you spent several $100 or $1,000, you know, to put siding on your house, you still had to get out there and paint that overhang. Well, once I found that there was methods of doing that, we were really the first one that ever started doing what they call soffit fascia systems, where we actually cover the overhang as well. And that's one of the hardest things to paint there is, you know. And we came up with some innovations on that. if you just put up the fascia if you just cover the fascia, you end up getting streaks off of the roofing. So what we came up with is a drip edge that actually had a return that once the water came off the roof, it threw it off of the fascia and kept it a lot cleaner, looked a lot nicer, and just really performed a whole lot better. We were the only ones that did that. It wasn't any great planning on my part. We were meeting with a manufacturer on the siding, Kaiser, as a matter of fact, and he was showing us all of his soffit and fascia systems and the different sidings that they have and what have you. And it just came up with, hey, Bill, have y'all ever thought about selling aluminum roofing? And I don't even know what it is. I mean, tell me about it. Why? And of course, he started telling me about it. He had a little pasteboard sample of it. And I said, well, what does it cost? And he told me, and after I picked myself up off the floor, I said, my gosh, why would anybody want to pay that much for roofing? They can get it for $3 a square, and you don't want to, I think, what, $50 back then. This is 40-something years ago. I said, why would anybody want to do that? And it stumped him. He didn't have an answer. He looked at the pasteboard sample and looked back at me and looked back at the pasteboard sample again, and in kind of a question, he says, well, it's pretty? And it was true. It was pretty. It really made a big difference in the appearance of the house. And first house we did, we didn't know anything about it. We offered it for sale and talked to this I forget his name, but he's out on Clover Street. And he said the guy behind me had an aluminum roof on his house for 30 years, and I've replaced mine 2 or 3 times since then. He said, I'm just looking for something that's permanent that I can put on. I think he was 75 years old or something like that. But he wanted to do something that was permanent and would never have to replace it. And so we figured it up, and I think we did the work for less than what it cost us. But what really came out of it is that I got to see the house before. I saw it in the process of installing it, and the finished job, it really was pretty. I mean, it just really made a big difference in the appearance of the house. The installation, though, was funny. Bob Sammons and I ended up behind the chimney up there reading the instructions, trying to figure out how to put it on. But it worked out, and it was really pretty, and the guy was happy with it. And we got a second call, and so I called on him, and we're in the presentation, and I said, now I'll tell him how pretty it is, And he said, but doesn't the customer, doesn't the aluminum have reflectivity? Doesn't it make your attic cooler? And I checked it. Yeah, it does. So the third person, well, it's pretty, and it reflects radiant heat and keeps the attic cooler. And, they didn't have a chance. So, but the whole presentation was really developed by talking to homeowners and prospects and customers, and what they wanted, what they liked about it, what they didn't like about it. And that's where most of the innovations came from, is the things that they didn't like, and we set out to change it. Most people just kind of want to go where everybody else goes, and I guess all my life, and especially business life, I've always looked, the way it's always been done is not necessarily the way it should be done. And when we make improvements, it gives us an advantage in the marketplace, but also helps the customer and helps us at the same time, because what we end up with is a much better job and a lot happier customers. And that's the greatest asset we have, is our satisfied customers.